All right, before we get started today, I just wanted to let you know that my Papa Bear caps are now available for sale in my merch store. You don't seriously think I have a merch store, do you? My daughter got me this cap. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about Frank Turek. About 9 months ago, I just came across this video, but about 9 months ago, he posted it. It's a clip from a conference in which a conference goer asks about the meaning of Romans 1. And Turek takes an extraordinary view in which essentially he claims by implication that every true atheist is lost and cannot be saved and thus is going to hell. You have to hear this to believe it. Okay, so the gentleman has just asked the question. Now Turek takes the mic and offers his reply. How to understand Romans 1 and atheists.
I think that there are some people out there who genuinely don't believe God exists because they've suppressed the truth so long that God has given up to their own desires, and they're at the end of Romans 1 rather than the beginning. So I don't want to call people who are atheists disingenuous. They may be totally honest, but they've lost the capacity to recognize God exists because God knows they're never coming back and he has given them up.
Wow. Let's unpack this. So I've talked about Romans 1 and atheists a whole lot. Of course, I wrote an entire book about this, Is the Atheist My Neighbor?, in which I critique what I call the rebellion thesis. And according to the rebellion thesis, atheism is intellectually disingenuous and morally corrupt because atheists are sinfully suppressing the truth and unrighteousness because they don't want to submit to God or recognize his existence. And so they claim not to know that God exists. But in fact, based upon this reading of Romans 1, they in fact do know that God exists. Frank Turek, I think, recognizes some of the problems with that rebellion thesis. Here's one huge problem with it. Is that it seems from people who have the interiority of being atheists, they would say, no, I genuinely don't believe God exists. I'm not suppressing that belief. I genuinely don't believe God exists. And that it's problematic to claim to a person, I know better than you do what your interior mental thoughts are, right? And yet that's what the rebellion thesis obliges the Christian to do. So what Turek says here is, I'm not claiming that. I'm not claiming that atheists are dishonest, that they really do believe in God, but that they purport not to. Rather, I agree. I think atheists really do disbelieve in God's existence. The problem is that they only got to the point of being true atheists by actively suppressing the true belief in God's existence for a long time. So they were in rebellion for a long period, and then eventually they lost their ability to hear God, just like a person who, let's say, stabs themselves in the eye loses the ability to see out of that eye. So the atheist can no longer believe in God, and God has turned them over to their atheism. They cannot repent. They are unable to repent. They are unable to believe in God. And what happens to a person who is unable to repent because of a long period of rebellion, and God has now given up on them and turned them over? Well, they're lost. They're going to hell. So what Turek has just done, incredibly, is he's tried, in a sense, to soften or to weaken the standard offense of the rebellion thesis, which says that essentially atheists are lying, they're disingenuous, by saying, no, they really don't believe in God, but that's because they can't be saved, because they're lost forever, they're beyond redemption, they're all going to hell. What an incredible position for a Christian apologist to take, to argue that genuine atheists are all going to hell. Now, let's, with that in mind, just return in closing to a genuine atheist, to a person who thinks, I really am not in rebellion against God at this point in my life. I don't believe God exists. In fact, there are atheists out there, and I know many of them, who would like for God to exist, who would want to believe in God, but just can't. What Turek is saying to those people is, if you genuinely are an atheist, and you would know, right, that you really are, that I believe that you are lost and beyond redemption. And that's the view that Turek takes in this video. Like I said, extraordinary, hard to believe, but he said it.